was buried beneath my shame. Who could carry that kind of weight? It was my tomb till I met you. I was breathing but not alive. All my failures I tried to hide. It was my tomb till I met you. You called my name and I ran out of that grave, out of the darkness into your glorious day. You called my name and I ran out of that grave, out of the darkness into your glorious day. Yeah. Sing now your mercy. Now your mercy has saved my soul. Now your freedom is all that I know. The old man knew, oh Jesus, when I met you. Yeah, you called my name and I ran out of that grave, out of the darkness into your glorious day. Come on. You called my name and I ran out of that grave, yeah, out of the darkness into your glorious day. I needed rescue, my sin was heavy, but chains break at the weight of your glory. I needed shelter, I was an orphan, but you called me a citizen of heaven. When I was broken, you were my healing, and your love is the air that I'm breathing. I have a future, my eyes are open, 'cause when you call my name, I ran out of that grave, out of the darkness into your glorious day. You called my name and I ran out of that grave, out of the darkness into your glorious day. Come on, let's praise him this morning. Yeah. The more I see, the more I find to love, the more I know, the more I can withhold my heart. I'm still amazed by who you are. Somehow we never get sold, telling you you're whole. Somehow we never get sold, telling you you love me. Somehow we never get sold, telling you you're worthy. For as long as I live, I'll never get tired of giving you praise. With every day, another reason why. With every breath, another chance to give my heart. Oh, I'm still amazed by who you are. Come on, sing it out. Somehow it never gets old. Somehow it never gets old, telling you you're holy. Somehow it never gets old, telling you you're lovely. Somehow it never gets old, telling you you're worthy. For as long as I live, I'll never get tired of giving you praise. Somehow it never gets old, telling you you're holy. Somehow it never gets old, telling you you're lovely. Somehow it never gets old, telling you you're worthy. For as long as I live, I'll never get tired of giving you praise. How could there be more when you've already been so good? How could there be more when you've already been so kind? What else can I say? Oh, I'm still amazed by you. How could there be more? How could there be more when you've already been so good? How could there be more when you've already been so kind? What else can I say?
never been, and there will never be a God like you, a love so true. There has never been, and there will never be a God like you, a love so true. There has never been, and there will never be a God like you, a love so true. There has never been, and there will never be a God like you, a love so true. How great, how great, how great is your love. How great, how great, how great is your love. How great, how great, how great is your love for us. How great, how great, how great is your love. How great, how great, how great is your love. How great, how great, how great is your love for us. How great is your love for us.
God, help us to see that this morning, how great your love is for us. God, sometimes when it doesn't feel like you're doing things our way, sometimes it can feel like the love isn't as strong. But God, you are here, you care for us, you love us, you have good plans for us. God, you yearn for us to grow in maturity and in strength. God, help us to see you in a new way even this morning. God, that we would meet with you and that we'd walk away from this place changed. God, I pray that you would speak to us through your word. God, may the words of my mouth, the meditation of our hearts be pleasing in your sight, O Lord, our rock and our redeemer. And all the people said, Amen. Have a seat. Good morning, church. Thanks, Derek. Thanks, Vlad. Nelson Mandela was actually an accomplished lawyer before he became an activist. He was an accomplished lawyer, but as he saw the unjust systems of apartheid in South Africa, he couldn't sit idly by, and he joined the resistance movements. And he actually began to take leadership over those resistance movements, over the apartheid governments in South Africa. And in 1964, he was thrown in prison for his resistance activities. And he sat in prison for 27 years. It was said the harsh conditions seemed like the once successful lawyer had been forgotten. But during those years, something was happening. Mandela wasn't just waiting, he was being prepared. He studied, he reflected, he grew in wisdom. And when he was finally released in 1990, he emerged not as a bitter man seeking revenge, but as a leader ready to unite a divided nation. In 1994, Mandela was elected as the first democratically elected president of South Africa. But it was said that he would not have been elected, nor would he have been prepared to have been elected, had it not been for the 27 years he spent in prison, waiting, developing, growing patience, growing wisdom. And he once said, our trials are preparation for our purpose. That's a pretty heavy statement. Our trials, the things that we endure, the difficulties, the obstacles, the pain, the trials in our life are preparation for our purpose. Mandela's life actually kind of lines up pretty closely with the life of Joseph that we've been looking at over the last few weeks. Joseph was betrayed by his brothers, sold into slavery. He was thriving in the home of Potiphar as a slave, only to be falsely accused of rape and be thrown in prison, spending years in prison only to see what looked like his potential way out. And then he was forgotten, languishing in prison. He met with one of Pharaoh's officials and interpreted a dream, and he thought that that official was going to run to Pharaoh and tell Joseph's story and that Joseph would be vindicated and set free, but he just sat in prison for 2 years, languishing and waiting. And we pick up the story here in Genesis 41. After 2 whole years, and this is after the cupbearer, Pharaoh's official, went back, was freed from prison, Pharaoh dreamed that he was standing by the Nile. And behold, there came up out of the Nile 7 cows, attractive and plump, and they fed in the reed grass. And behold, 7 other cows, ugly and thin, came up out of the Nile after them, and stood by the other cows on the bank of the Nile. And the ugly, thin cows ate up the 7 attractive, plump cows, and Pharaoh awoke. It was common for cows in the Nile region that they would wade into the banks, the shore of the Nile River, into the tall reeds to stay cool. So it was a common thing for the cows to kind of be hidden in among the reeds. But what is uncommon is for these scrawny little cows to be eating other cows. That was a strange vision that Pharaoh had. And he fell asleep and dreamed a second time, and behold, 7 ears of grain, plump and good, were growing on one stalk. And behold, after them sprouted 7 ears, thin and blighted by the east wind. And the thin ears swallowed up the 7 plump, full ears. And Pharaoh awoke, and behold, it was a dream. It was believed in this day that God spoke to people through dreams, or the gods, plural, spoke to people through dreams. And so Pharaoh had these 2 dreams that both had these similar themes. And he realized that God or someone was trying to speak to him, and he was troubled by this dream. So in the morning, his spirit was troubled, and he sent and called for the magicians of Egypt and all its wise men. Pharaoh told them his dream, but there was no one who could interpret them to Pharaoh. Interpreting dreams was a profession. There were these magicians, there were books of interpretation, and they all came together, and all of the professionals were stumped. Then the chief cupbearer said to Pharaoh, "I remember my offense today." So 2 years later, Pharaoh has this dream, no one can interpret it, and this cupbearer dude who's in the court standing on the side all of a sudden has this moment where he's like, "Oh no!" And he just realized, I totally forgot about that Joseph dude. He like, you know those moments where you just realize that you forgot something and it's this overwhelming like sense of dread? He just realized, oh man, I totally forgot there's this dude. And so, verse 10, when Pharaoh was angry with his servants and put me in the chief baker in custody in the house of the captain of the guard. So he's telling the story. Hey, remember that time that you were angry with me and you threw me in prison? Yeah, that time. We dreamed on the same night, he and I each having a dream with its own interpretation. A young Hebrew was there with us, a servant of the captain of the guard. And when we told him, he interpreted our dreams for us, giving us an interpretation to each man according to his dream. As he interpreted to us, so it came about. I was restored to my office, and the baker was hanged. Then Pharaoh sent and called Joseph, and they quickly brought him out of the pit. And when he had shaved himself and changed his clothes, he came before Pharaoh. For a couple of years, at least a few years, Joseph's been rotting in prison. He probably looks like a hot mess. So they bring him to the barber and they clean him up and they make him look like a respectable Egyptian. But you also got to think in this moment, what's going through Joseph's mind as he's getting ready to meet Pharaoh? He has no idea what's next. He has no idea if he's going to be able to do whatever's asked of him. He doesn't know if Pharaoh's bringing him up to execute him. There's this like tension and dread and fear as he's about to meet Pharaoh. But there's also this relief that, hey, at least I'm not in the pit right now. And Pharaoh said to Joseph, I've had a dream, and there's no one who can interpret it. I've heard it said of you, when you hear a dream, you can interpret it. Joseph answered Pharaoh, it's not in me. God will give Pharaoh a favorable answer. And there's this sense of humility in Joseph. Hey, listen, I can't do this on my own, but you know what? Let me take it to God. Maybe he can do it for you. And then we'll skip ahead a little bit just for the sake of time, but Pharaoh recounts the exact same dream to Joseph. And then in verse 24, and I told it to the magicians, but there was no one who could explain it to me. Then Joseph said to Pharaoh, the dreams of Pharaoh are one. God has revealed to Pharaoh what he's about to do. God is given insight to Joseph right here. He understands. Joseph knows. Oh, okay. God gives him insight into what this dream means. The 7 good cows are 7 years, and the 7 good ears are 7 years. The dreams are one. The 7 lean and ugly cows that came up after them are 7 years, and 7 empty ears blighted by the east winds are also 7 years of famine. It is as I told Pharaoh. God has shown Pharaoh what he's about to do. There will come 7 years of great plenty throughout all the land of Egypt, but after them will arise 7 years of famine, and all the plenty will be forgotten in the land of Egypt. The famine will consume the land. And the plenty will be unknown in the land by the reason of the famine that will follow, for it will be very severe. And the doubling of Pharaoh's dream means that this thing is fixed by God, and God will shortly bring it about. Famine was one of the most feared natural disasters for them. They didn't have greenhouses. They didn't have agricultural insights or technology. They were completely dependent upon the rains in the season. They were totally dependent on the weather. And so a famine was heavily feared. And Joseph says, here's what the dream means. You're going to have 7 years. We're going to have 7 abundant years where the rains come, and we're going to have these amazing harvests and amazing crops. But then following those 7 good years are going to be 7 years of famine. That God has told you what is coming. Verse 33, now therefore, let Pharaoh select a discerning and wise man and set him over the land of Egypt. Let Pharaoh proceed to appoint overseers to the land and take 1/5 of the produce of the land of Egypt during the 7 plentiful years, and let them gather all the food of these good years that are coming and store up grain under the authority of Pharaoh for food in the cities, and let them keep it. That food shall be a reserve for the land against the 7 years of famine that will occur in the land of Egypt, so that the land may not perish through famine. Joseph goes from interpreter to strategist. He says, this is what it means, and then he has the boldness and the audacity to tell the Pharaoh, hey, here's what you should do. He says, you should take, in those good years that are coming, take 1/5 of everything and put it aside. And then when the 7 years of drought come, we will have an abundance. We'll have storehouses of grain. I think the reason why Joseph's able to think this way is because he spent the last 17 years serving in Potiphar's house, learning how to be a strategist, learning how to manage money, learning how to manage assets. He's also been in prison, learning how to manage people and care for people and care about resources. And so it's been, again, just like Nelson Mandela, it was the trials that were preparing Joseph for this purpose. This proposal pleased Pharaoh and all his servants. And Pharaoh said to his servants, can we find a man like this in whom is the Spirit of God? And then Pharaoh said to Joseph, since God has shown you all this, there's none discerning and wise as you are. You shall be over my house, and all my people shall order themselves as you command. Only as regards to the throne will I be greater than you. And Pharaoh said to Joseph, see, I have set you over all the land of Egypt. Then Pharaoh took his signet ring from his hand and put it on Joseph's hand and clothed him in garments of fine linen and put a gold chain around his neck. And he made him ride in a second chariot, and they called out before him, bow the knee. Thus he set him over all the land of Egypt. Moreover, Pharaoh said to Joseph, I am Pharaoh, and without your consent, no one in Egypt will lift up a hand or foot in all the land of Egypt. And Pharaoh called Joseph's name Zaphina Paneah, and he gave him in marriage Ashina, the daughter of Potiphar, priest of On. So Joseph went out over the land of Egypt. It's this amazing rags to riches story. That in the morning, Joseph is literally in prison, like big old hairy beard, dirty, filthy, stinky, doesn't know if he's rotting and going to die in prison, locked up in a pit. And that night, he's got a ring and a robe and his own chariot, and he's been given rule over the most powerful land in the world. It's the shocking turn. And now it seems like a bit of a jump for Pharaoh to just all of a sudden go, hey, why don't you do all this? But I think actually, as Pharaoh is calling Joseph up out of the pit, I mean, he's got to do a little background check on this guy, right? Like, this guy's been in prison. I'm about to talk to him. Is he a decent dude? And so I think he goes and he interviews the leader, the chief guard over the prison. And I think the chief prison guard just begins to tell him, hey, let me tell you about Joseph's character. Let me tell you about his competence. Let me tell you about how I can trust him. Basically, with this whole pit, I can leave the doors unlocked and he's not running out of here. And so it's been, I think, Joseph's faithfulness in the midst of the prison, in the midst of the pit, in the midst of the menial and the mundane and the frustrating that has proven his character. The Pharaoh goes, actually, I think God has been preparing you for this job. And Pharaoh gives him charge of the entire land. He's the most powerful person in Egypt who's not a pharaoh. Joseph was 30 years old when he entered the service of Pharaoh, king of Egypt. And Joseph went out from the presence of Pharaoh and went through all the land of Egypt. During the 7 plentiful years, the earth produced abundantly. And he gathered up all the food in these 7 years which occurred in the land of Egypt and put the food in the cities. And he put every city the food from the fields around it. And Joseph stored up the grain in great abundance like the sand of the sea until he ceased to measure it, for it could not be measured. Joseph instituted a policy of storage over 7 years. He didn't let people waste the extra. He knew that the good times are going to end. He didn't use the extra to pad his pockets or to allow people to buy luxuries with it. Hey, we've got all this extra lying around. Let's splurge a little bit. Let the good times roll. Instead, Joseph taught and forced them to live within their means and save up the extra. Just because they had it didn't mean they had to use it all immediately. Sort of these austerity measures. Just because you can doesn't mean we should. Before the year of famine came, 2 sons were born to Joseph. Asenath, the daughter of Potiphera, priest of On, bore them to him. Joseph called the name of the firstborn Manasseh, for he said, God has made me forget all my hardship and all my father's house. The name of the second he called Ephraim, for God has made me fruitful in the land of my affliction. The names of his sons were reminders of his story. And that this was the land of his affliction, that these were his opponents and enemies keeping him oppressed. Yet God used those oppressions and those peoples to now bring him to a place where he's able to deliver them from famine. Again, there's ties back there to the story of Nelson Mandela. The 7 years of plenty that occurred in the land of Egypt came to an end. And the 7 years of famine began to come, as Joseph had said. There was famine in all the lands, but in all the land of Egypt there was bread. When all the land of Egypt was famished and the people cried to Pharaoh for bread, Pharaoh said to all the Egyptians, go to Joseph, what he says to do, you do. So when the famine had spread over all the land, Joseph opened all the storehouses and sold to the Egyptians, for the famine was severe in all the land of Egypt. Moreover, all the earth came to Egypt to Joseph to buy grain, because the famine was severe over all the earth. So now Joseph is sitting on the most valuable commodity in the world. He's got food in a land of famine, and he enriches Egypt. He's able to give people what they desperately need, and he's able to profit off of it and bless his people and bless Pharaoh. And so, in this crazy story of rags to riches, there's a very practical lesson that I think, first of all, there is for us this week. Very hyper practical financial lesson. And that is, just because you have it doesn't mean you have to live at that level. To live below your means. Just because you have an abundance, maybe you're in a season of abundance right now, bless you if you are. That doesn't mean that is where you have to raise your level of lifestyle. Because when we do that, we put ourselves on the edge, and it brings anxiety having to hold on to those things. Living below your means eases your anxieties. It also builds a cushion for difficult times, and it creates a habit in us that I think is really important, that our stuff, our lifestyle, is not our identity, our value, and our worth. And perhaps those years of plenty, as we see in the life of Joseph, are meant to provide, not to consume. And it's this reframing the way that we see years of plenty and our money, just hyper-practical financial advice, I think, from the life of Joseph. The second thing I see in this story that I think for us is really important is that God's timing is not our timing. If it was up to Joseph, this all would have happened a long time before. Instead, he languishes in prison for years. But it's his trials and his afflictions that are preparing for him for his purpose, the purpose that God has for him. He had to learn maybe how to calm down, how to slow down, how to think wisely, not to respond to the moment. He had to learn how to endure. He had to learn how to lead. He had to learn how to be faithful with the small things before he could be entrusted with things that were larger. It reminds me a little bit of the Chinese bamboo tree, or Chinese bamboo, which when you plant in the ground, you have to water and fertilize every day. And for 5 years, you see nothing. There is no growth above the surface for 5 years. For 5 years, Chinese bamboo grows roots. It goes deep, and it prepares the foundation for its life to come. And after 5 years, when the roots go deep, you see nothing. It seems like it's fruitless work, pointless work for 5 years. Is this thing ever going to grow? Then in a matter of 6 weeks, Chinese bamboo goes from 0 to 90 feet tall in 6 weeks. Nothing for 5 years. And then the height of a 9-story building in 6 weeks. I think this is how God's timing works often in our lives, is that he's preparing something under the surface through trial, through difficulty, through obstacle. He's preparing your character. He's preparing things in your heart that you need for this next season if you're willing to trust him with the small things that God is working under the surface, and that is priority. And growth may come above the surface, but it might take a while wading through the obstacles. His timing is not our timing. And finally, that's what bamboo looks like, in case you didn't know. And finally, for me, the last thing that I see in this is that the famine was not inevitable. There were these 7 years of famine, but it was not an inevitability. It wasn't like God was panicking, like, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? What am I going to do? And he's like, oh, I got just the guy. I'll get Joseph ready, and he'll rescue the earth from this famine. Whew! That was close. God controlled the famine too. God could have avoided the famine, and he also could have avoided the whole Joseph in prison being betrayed by his brother thing. He could have avoided all of it. So what was the purpose of Joseph's life? I mean, the outcome was that he saved not only the Egyptians, but also, we're going to see next week, he saved his brothers and his family, and he saved the nations around through his good stewardship and through God's provision and all these things. He did all those things. But that wasn't the purpose of his life. What was the purpose of all of this? The purpose for Joseph's life are these 16 chapters in Genesis. The purpose is the story, which is for us. The purpose of Joseph's life was to show the glory of God. Because the glory of God, that word means the weight, the splendor, the majesty, right? The awesomeness of who God is. And we can explore a little bit of that when we use science, when we use our observation, when we explore creation, when we look at the stars and the galaxies, when we look at biology and cellular, chemistry, all those sort of things. We see the beauty, the complexity, the majesty, the might, the brilliance of God. In those things, they show the glory, the weightiness, the splendor of God as we look at the mountains and the snow, and as we stand on the edge of the ocean. Those things give glory to God. But how do we know anything specific? It has to come through revelation. God has to speak to us. And he speaks to us not with a booming voice from heaven. He speaks to us through people in history. This is not a rule book, right? It's not an ancient text of rules and laws. It's a story. And God uses Joseph and his life as part of this story to reveal his character to us. Joseph's purpose was to reveal who God is, the way that God can use us even in the midst of our brokenness, the way that God can use evil intentions and broken world and people who are sinful, how we can use them to bring about good if we trust him. The story of Joseph, the purpose of Joseph's life, was to display the glory of God, not just for the people of his time, but for us. The purpose of Joseph's story is for us, to see God's heart. And so then what is the purpose of your life? What's the purpose? What's the meaning of your life? I know, a little tiny easy question. I'm sure you figured it all out. What is the meaning of your life? John Piper, who's a pastor and an author, wrote this story once where he had been reading the Reader's Digest, as one used to do apparently, and he came across this story of a retired couple who sold their home and they moved away from their family to the beach. And they lived on the beach and they spent their days. Every day, the joy, the purpose of their life was they would walk the beach and they would collect shells. That was their life. And John Piper, almost in a really uncomfortable way, got really, really angry at this couple. He was like, "What? Someday you're going to stand before the God of the universe, and what are you going to show with the one life that he's given you to lead? What are you going to show God with the life that he's given you? Are you going to show up and say, 'Check out my shell collection'?" So what a waste of the life that God has given you. What is your purpose? And we can laugh about the shells, but what do we live for? What is going to be a win for us at the end of our lives? What's the win? What's the purpose? Do we show up before the God of the universe with our one life and go, "Hey, check out my bank account"? I mean, for us, that's more impressive than shells, but to God, is it really? What about toys in the garage? Is the point of our life, the purpose of our life, just to collect a bunch of stuff? Is that a meaningful purpose? Is the purpose of our life to make a really comfortable life for our dog? I mean, we laugh, but let's be honest. We live in California. That's what people live for. Is the purpose of our life to have fun vacations? To have lots of kids? Instagram followers? Job, career, position, respect? What is the purpose of your life? And is it a purpose ultimately beyond, when you look beyond today, is it a purpose worth living for? The Westminster Confession of Faith, written about 400 years ago. A group of guys a lot smarter than us got together, and they sought to answer this question: what is the chief end of man? What is the purpose of our life? What is the meaning of life? And the response rings true still 400 years later and says, to glorify God and enjoy him forever. The purpose and meaning of our life, the purpose of life, is to glorify, to show the weightiness, the splendor, the majesty of God to those around us. And in the process, just enjoying the God who loves us, doing life with him alongside him. What does it mean to glorify God with our lives? It's to show others around us his splendor, his majesty, to enjoy him in his love and in his plan. And I think that the chief way that we actually glorify God, that we show others around us who God is, when we say, I know that you think that's who God is, but let me tell you that's not who he is. Let me display him. The chief way that we do that, I think, according to these guys, is by enjoying him, enjoying his presence, enjoying his gifts, enjoying walking with him, knowing him, serving him, loving him. We are ambassadors to bring this glory into the world, to bring light into the darkness. Do our lives give evidence to the world around us that God is great? That he's great in mercy, that he's great in love, that he's great in grace and patience? Jesus wants you to flourish. In times of want and famine, and in times of plenty and abundance, the purpose remains the same. To glorify God in the hardship, to glorify God in abundance, to bear witness to others around us, the goodness of God. But we don't just do it individually. It's not just my job individually. We also, the call is to do it corporately as a body. That a light on its own in the darkness can be pretty dim. But when we collect our light together, when we gather our light together, and we pool our time, our talents, our treasure, our resources, our gifts, that light can multiply. And that's what it means to be a church. To realize that our purpose, not just individually, but also corporately as a church, is to glorify God, to bear witness to his goodness, his love to the world and our community around us. I hope that you can stick around for brunch, sort of during brunch and at the end of brunch. We want to talk about what that's going to look like for us as a church in this next season, what it's going to look like to glorify God as a body. Our hope, our prayer as we enter into this season, so I hope that you can stick around. We've got some food. I'm guessing, I think I saw some curry walk in, so don't even worry about me or that. That's worth price of admission right there. And so we're going to respond this morning by taking communion. So Matt's going to come up, and I want you to come forward. We're going to receive the elements together. Take the bread or the cracker and the cup and bring it back to your seat. Hold on to it, and we will take all together. We remember in communion, this is something that God has told us to do as an act of remembrance, as an act of remembering what God has done for us, that this is also a symbol of the glory of God, the goodness of God, the love of God. It's a physical act that we can do for ourselves, to almost preach to ourselves about the goodness and the glory of God in our lives. So the worship team will play, and they're going to come up. So come up and receive and take it back to your seat. God has been dropping little breadcrumbs for me a lot this week. There's a lot. It'd be great to sit and chat about it sometime. This week has been a lot. But there's been little breadcrumbs. And even just the fact that we had Matt has got the last cup. But there's an exact amount of communion. That never happens. So it's just me. I'm heightened to it this morning. Just as the Egyptians went to Joseph because they were starving, they went for bread, for wheat. You hold in your hand a little cracker of wheat. That we come before Jesus, starving on our own. We truly acknowledge the state of our lives apart from the work of God. We come in a famine with nothing to offer but our hunger. And in His grace, through His broken body, Jesus offers us His abundance. Take and eat in remembrance of Him. And at that upper table, Jesus took the cup. The cup of redemption said, this is my blood poured out for you, to wash us clean, to make us new, and to send us out into the world as those who now bear his image and his glory to a broken and hurting world. Take, drink in remembrance of him. Let's respond by singing.
Count on one thing, the same God that never fails will not fail me now. You won't fail me now in the waiting. The same God who's never late is working all things out. You're working all things out. Yes, I will lift you high in the lowest valley. Yes, I will bless your name. Yes, I will sing for joy when my heart is heavy all my days. Yes, I will. Count on one thing, the same God that never fails will not fail me now. You won't fail me now in the waiting. And the same God who's never late is working all things out. You're working all things out. Yes, I will lift you high in the lowest valley. Yes, I will bless your name. Yes, I will sing for joy when my heart is heavy all my days. Yes, I will for all my days. Yes, I will. And I choose to praise, to glorify, glorify, name of all names. And nothing can stand against. I choose to praise, to glorify, glorify, name of all names. And nothing can stand against. Come on, I choose to praise, to glorify, glorify, name of all names. And nothing can stand against. I choose to praise, to glorify, glorify, name of all names. And nothing can stand against. Yes, I will let you lie in the lowest valley. Yes, I will bless your name. Yes, I will sing for joy when my heart is heavy all my days. Yes, I will for all my days. Yes, I will for all my days. Yes, I